Ciao ragazzi, benvenuti o bentornati nel mio canale YouTube. Avete mai immaginato di poter visitare uno dei laboratori di liuteria più importanti al mondo? Uno dei brand più forti e più riconoscibili su tutto il globo terrestre? Parliamo di Sadowsky Guitars e parliamo di un brand, di una persona, Roger Sadowsky nello specifico, che ha fatto della produzione di chitarre e bassi elettrici un'eccellenza assoluta. Facciamo qualche esempio di alcuni artisti che utilizzano o che hanno utilizzato bassi e chitarre Sadowsky. Concentriamoci sui bassi elettrici, giusto per nominarne qualcuno. Parliamo di personaggi come Will Lee, Oscar Cartaia, Tal Winkelfeld, Jason Nestwid, Marcus Miller e la lista potrebbe andare avanti all'infinito. Come potete vedere, tra l'altro, sono tutti artisti che provengono da generi musicali diversi. Abbiamo il metal, abbiamo la fusion, abbiamo il jazz, abbiamo il pop. Quindi a dimostrazione del fatto che Sadowsky produce strumenti trasversali che possono andare bene per qualsiasi genere. Prima di lasciarvi al Factory Tour vorrei ringraziare di cuore Roger Sadowsky per avermi dato l'opportunità di poter visitare la sua azienda e vorrei ringraziare Peter per avermi accompagnato passo dopo passo all'interno della visita, quindi all'interno dei laboratori, all'interno dello showroom e all'interno di tutte le parti che vedrete nel video. Grazie soprattutto a tutti voi ragazzi che mi seguite e che avete fatto crescere questa bassfamily così tanto, dandomi poi l'opportunità di potermi appunto presentare a personaggi come Roger Sadowsky e di poter realizzare video come questi. Ricordate quindi di lasciare un like, di condividere il video con i vostri amici e di iscrivervi al canale. Più siamo, più cose importanti facciamo insieme. Quindi buona visione e BassYourLife.
Like that, but
Okay.
I'll give you the regular tour.
Ok.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So we got a customer in here right now, but just doing a little tour. Rob, we'll be out of your hair in just a moment. But this is the bass showroom. So we do about probably 30 to 40 basses, 30 to 40 instruments a month. We do about half for dealers and about half for customers and about half
Okay.
for half for stock.
Okay.
So all these instruments are here for people to come and try out. If you wanted to buy one and walk out the door with it, they're here. Most of them are for sale too. So we're constantly building instruments for stock and getting them in the showroom here. This is also where we do the website photography.
Ok.
So here, we can hop on out here real quick. We can do some more, spend some more time in the bass showroom when we're finished up. Next up is the guitar showroom. So we actually just sold a few guitars. So it's a little emptier than it is usually, which is, I guess, good that we sold a few. Not good that it's emptier. But we got two major lines of guitars. We've got our NYC guitars, which are like our NYC basses. They're solid bodies. We do a number of different body shapes, like T-style body shapes, S-style body shapes, and then that's a new body shape we're calling our Broadway style guitar that we've been doing for about 2 years now. And then we've got our arch tops here, which are sort of fixed models. We've got a semi-hollow, and then 3 arch tops of various body sizes and body depths. The same goes here. These are for people to come in and play. You know, it's tricky when we do a lot of custom orders and stuff. It's hard for people to know kind of what they want. So we try and keep stuff in here for people to come and check out and play and be able to get a feel for how the instruments kind of go and all that kind of stuff, and make sure we can build them what it is that's going to work for them.
Perfect.
So this is sort of the office area. We're gonna meet. That's our shop manager, Lisa. We're gonna meet.
My boss's chair.
We're gonna meet Lisa in the back here very shortly. So this is office area. Just around the corner, boring office and stuff. But this is an online store area. Carmine, who you saw briefly when you came in, he's our online store manager, our shipping manager. So this is where when an instrument's ready to go, it comes up here. You can see he's boxing one up right now. He does all that stuff. Everything that ships, that's done right up here. We also have an online store, which is basically just stuff that over the last 20, 30, 35 years that Roger sort of collected things that his customers really wanted that they weren't able to get elsewhere, and so we've developed kind of a line of strings that Roger feels are really, really awesome. guitar strings, bass strings. We sell our electronics, our preamps, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Polishes that we use here in the shop, that kind of thing. Straps. Then
Okay.
of course T-shirts, all that good stuff. So that's all up here. That's the online store. So if you were to go on the website, buy some strings, that's gonna come through to Carmine's computer. He's gonna grab them off the shelf for you,
Cap.
get you ready to roll. Yeah, or a Sadowsky mug. Huh?
Yeah.
All right, for sale on the online store. Pick guards for metros. That's my office. My office is a little more boring. I don't really have anything cool over there. Answer emails a lot. So this is Roger's office. Roger's out of town right now, but Roger sort of has one foot. You know, he's got his office space here because he's sort of got one foot in the front office, handling a lot of business stuff, and then the back half of it there is his workbench, where he's sort of all around the shop doing work on various things, but is also final checks every instrument that leaves the shop. So right there we've got a lot of completed instruments that are gonna get a final check from Raj when he comes back in.
Okay, he made the final setup.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So Roger is the final stop for all.
Okay.
Yeah. So he does sort of the final inspection of everything, sets them up, makes sure that they're playing well, all that good stuff. And that's right. That's what a lot of those instruments are waiting for right there. Right behind you, you've got the kitchen. You've kind of come during the lunch hour. Everybody wave.
Oh, cool, we got a camera.
Exactly. Yeah. Carmine loves being filmed while he's eating. But that's the lunch area. So right up here, we've got in the sort of front chunk of the shop is where we do a lot of pre-production work and that sort of thing. So here we've got a couple of finished bodies that looks like we're just in the middle of being inspected. You know, making sure that there's no sort of irregularities or anything in the finish that would require us to do any buffing or anything like that, or in
PJ
some
with
cases,
back.
yeah, some cases entirely refinishing them. So we try and give them a really thorough going over as soon as they're finished in spray, because we do very, 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 very thin finishes. So like any little thing can kind of do some things can be tricky. So you gotta check them over very, very carefully. So here we got Spalted Maple top. This is a 59 burst or a tobacco burst kind of thing, actually on roasted body wood there. Yeah. So it's got a cool kind of dark color to it. Here's where we do a lot of the work on pre-production work on the necks. Truing fingerboards, doing all the fret work, all that kind of stuff. That goes on right here. And back here are our builders. Eric is one of our builders here, so you can see he's got a base. He's getting ready to put together for us. So when I say pre-production stuff up there, what we're talking about is a lot of the detail work that goes into getting each part of the instrument ready. So finish sanding and all the fret work and all that sort of stuff on the necks, and then once they're sprayed and all that good stuff, because we spray the poly finish on the bodies and we do a nitro finish on the necks. Once everything's sort of ready to roll, they go to one of our builders who do the final assembly on the instruments. And that basically means they take finished body, finished neck, and they turn it into a bass that you can take home and play. So they do wire up the preamp, get all the pickups on there, do all the hardware, put the thing together, all sorts of stuff like that. So Eric's working on one right now. So we got a little Buckeye burl there. Buckeye burl. Looks like a Murado fingerboard. Oh. Black blocks there.
Very cool. Wow.
Yeah, so that's going to be nice bird's eye maple. Roasted bird's eye maple neck.
Wow.
That was going to be going to one of our dealers in China.
How many instruments are for American market and worldwide? The percent?
Half and half, maybe, something like that. We have a lot of really awesome dealers in all over the world. Probably half and half, I think, is a good bet. Got a really big dealer in Japan. That's going to a really, really awesome dealer we have in China. got another in Hong Kong, got several in Europe. Your Music in Italy. I don't know if you've checked them out. We're gonna be sending them a new bass pretty soon. They just bought a really cool bass out of stock. It's already packed up, so it wasn't in there, but yeah. But they do, tons of stuff going to all over the place. A lot of the stuff we do. Some of it's direct to customers overseas. We have a lot of really awesome dealers overseas that we work with too. This is Lisa's bench. Lisa is our shop manager, so she's sort of our head builder and does a lot of the sort of workshopping and R&D of new designs and cool things we do. There's a cool new pickup we've been working on that Lisa's been going back and forth with our guys at Nordstrand that are helping us with that. She does a lot of repair work for us, and then builds all sorts of stuff. Yep. What she's doing right now is
literally next week we're gonna put a bunch of 421s into production. So I just picked a bunch of cool stuff, and we're getting that ready to go for next week.
Yeah. So all of our instruments are bolt-ons, so they're two, it's a body and a neck that are separate. But even for stock stuff, that we're building for the showroom and not for a customer, from the second Lisa specs it out and decides what we're going to build, and we start building it, the neck and the body are paired up. We don't have a pile of necks, pile of bodies, and sort of put two together that look cool. It's very they're paired up for life, so they move through the shop together, or they're supposed to move through the shop together. But since they're two parts and they have to have different work done to them at different times, physically they're separate. They're in all different places of the shop. So Lisa gets to make sure that all the necks are where the neck's supposed to be and all the bodies are where the body's supposed to be, which
could be tricky.
Sometimes it's easier than other times. Yeah, so that's what she's got going on right now a little bit, it looks like. But part of the way we do that is that actually Lisa and our sort of outside a guy we have who does a lot of IT stuff for us, but they put together a program that helps us keep track of all that stuff. So if you were to call me and wanted to build a bass, we'd go through it. I pull up my little program that they got set up, and I go through and we work through all the specs, and I've got I punch them all in, and then when we're ready to roll, I send it back to Lisa, and Lisa starts building it. But in the meantime, it gets assigned one of these little 4-digit numbers. So that also goes on the body, and that's how we keep track of everything. So ideally, there's a 2043 sitting on the shelf, waiting to be ready to go into final assembly. And, there's a 2025, so. That's what all those 4-digit numbers are. That's kind of what helps us keep things along. These necks are pretty much finished. Nothing else really has to happen to them until they're ready to be assembled, and put together with the body. But normally they travel around in a little cardboard sleeve. Don't get too close to these. You don't want to have like names and all that stuff on your video. But a little QR code here. And what that is each of the builders and all the guys that are doing everything on the production side of things can literally just scan it when they get to each different step and log that they're doing the fretwork on the neck now, or log that they're doing finish sanding and inspection on the body. So if 6 months into your build you call me back and you want to know what's going on with it, where is it, I can actually look back on the same thing and go through and see what's happening with it and go find it. That sort of thing. We take pictures for you, all that fun stuff. So that helps us kind of keep track of everything there.
How long is the process from the order to the final?
Well, it's about 10 months.
10 months.
Yeah, which it's not an assembly line. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. For example, like those bodies the finish is being inspected. If we see something we don't like, we reject it. It goes and it does it again. And so things can take longer a lot of the times. Things can take sometimes a little less time. 8, 9, 10 months is not unusual, but also 12 isn't unusual. So we usually tell people about 10 months.
10 months.
Yeah, because we go for right before we go for fast. Usually, trying. So there's a lot of situations where we try and go do something again, or spend extra time with something trying to get it looking right.
Do you have a single cut model right now?
Oh, we do.
Okay.
We sure do. I can show you that when we get back up to the showroom if you want. You know, part of the tour. If you want for the for the video, we can go through and look at some of the models and stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah, some of the cool things. So these here are necks that are basically waiting for bodies. So you can see little things like they keep the frets taped up so that they don't.
Customer orders.
Yep, some of them are, and some of them are for dealers. Some of them are going to be for stock. Got some cool things here. Like this is this is a little skyline that we use sometimes. Yeah, exactly. It's got a cool curly maple fingerboard. It's cool roasted maple, roasted bird's eye maple neck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really cool. Wow. Fantastic.
Our bases, we always use maple for the necks. We use plain maple, we use roasted maple, we use roasted flame or bird's eye maple, but that's basically it. For the guitars, we do some kind of different things here. We use it's a Murado right there.
No,
this is mahogany. Different things we can do there.
Now you have some problems with rosewood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starting to get some of it ironed out a little bit, but the CITES agreements that restricted the shipping of Brazilian rosewood back in the day, they broadened it in January so that it applies now to all species of rosewood, or Dalbergia is the scientific, everything that falls under that, which is all of the true rosewoods like Madagascar rosewood, Indian rosewood, Brazilian rosewood, Amazon rosewood, all that stuff, but also a few other things like cocobolo, which we use for tops, which I can show you there. African blackwood, which we use for fingerboards sometimes. So that was a tricky thing to figure out. But a year later now, they've sort of ironed out how all that works, and we're able to ship overseas with all of them except for Brazilians.
Okay.
No good. But the others we're able to ship with, which is cool. Took a long time though. It was a lot of I think probably the different government agencies kind of figuring out how they were gonna work with stuff. These are cool. So these are we chamber all of our bodies. Which gives us a really nice light weight and a really resonant sound.
New York models, right?
Yes. Yeah, correct. Exactly. The Metros we don't. We find it reduces the weight of the instrument by about a pound or a pound and a quarter, depending. And that's kind of what this sort of looks like. That's what the patterns look like. They're all going to be a little different. For example, if we're going to put a pick guard on an instrument, we have to make sure that there are no chambers under where we're going to drive a screw, things like that. So you can see, for example, the Strat body, we've chambered all down here because the bridge goes a little higher. On the bass body, the bridge goes down here, so that can't chamber down there. Have to have things for the screws to go into.
So the max part you can chamber.
Yeah. There's a certain, because a big concern that Roger had and that a lot of people have in general is making sure that the bass still has a lot of sustain, that it still has a lot of that it's still a really full sounding instrument, and that everything is structurally sound and all that. So there's only but so much you can do. But Roger's been working on it for almost 15 years now. Almost 15 years. I might get the date wrong, but I think it's 2003 or 2004 when he started doing some of the chambering. And it was partial chambering then, and now we're able to do a lot more of it. But what's that?
How long was built the first model with the chambers?
Like I said, I might get the date wrong. I can check for sure. I've got it in my email. But, I think 2003.
2003. Okay.
And even then, it's what we now call partial chambering. So an instrument from that era is still going to weigh a little bit more than our instruments now do, because Roger sort of kind of perfected the process a little bit and figured out how to get the most weight out of the instrument without compromising anything else. But Roger's always been into acoustic instruments, that sort of thing, so he really, really prefers the sound of like a light, resonant instrument. But also, just the fact of like you're gonna sound better when you're comfortable, and like 2 hours into a bar gig, that extra pound, makes a big difference. Over here is probably my favorite stop on the tour. These are all of the figured tops, which Roger
Selected.
Yeah, exactly. Which Roger we would say he curates them. You know, so kind of interesting things that happen here. When Roger gets tops in, me and Carmine up front, you know, we'll get the box and we'll throw it here. And Roger comes back and he sorts through them all. You know, decides what we're going to keep and what we're not going to keep. And at this point, he's got guys that he's been working with for a really, really long time, and they know what kind of cuts of wood he likes and that sort of thing. But once Roger decides what we're going to keep, we sort it into quilted, like for example, quilted maple here. We sort it into master grade and standard grade, and that comes from, you know, back in the 90s, Roger would still use, like you hear people refer to figured woods as like 3A or 5A, you know, which refers to how highly figured they are. But the problem with that is that it's really kind of subjective. Like you might tell me you want a 5A quilt maple top, and I might say, great, and I pick this top up, and we finish your base, and you get it, and you're like, that's 5A? It looks more like 3 to me. So what Roger decided to do instead was just pick stuff that he thinks is particularly highly figured or that has like a unique look to it, and we just call it master grade. And Roger photographs it or puts a number on it, photographs it, and then I put it up on the website. And if you want to order your base, that base you were ordering from me, you know, back up there.
The top before.
Yeah, instead of having to say, oh, I want to pay a little bit of extra money and get this 5A quilt maple top and kind of hope that, you know, we pick one you'll like, you pay a little extra, get a super highly figured top, and you go on our website and say, wow, I want quilted maple top number 85. That's beautiful. And I go and I pick this up, and I write your name and your order number on it, and this is the top that goes on your bass or your guitar or whatever. So that's kind of what we ended up doing with that, and that works a lot. That works a lot better because everybody, you know, people who really, you know, value the figuring patterns and are really paying close attention to it can just, you know, they just pick what they want, exactly what they want, which is really cool. And you can see, for example, how some of this stuff might work. For example, Buckeye Burl. We don't do standard grade at all. So this is a really good illustration of how some of these problems might come up. So imagine Luca calls Sadowsky guitars and wants a Buckeye Burl top, and this is what you have in your head. You're like, I want a Buckeye Burl top. This looks so great. And I say, awesome, Luca, let me go back and pick you a Buckeye Burl top. And we put that top on your bass. It's totally different, right? You know? So stuff like this we actually don't even do standard grade just because they vary so drastic. You know, it's so different looking. You know, we have no idea what you had in mind when you said that you wanted Buckeye Burl. Yeah, they are really cool. This is one of our favorites. These are really cool. Yeah.
Wow.
So this works a little better, you know. But we had people who would have the same kind of problems with things that don't vary quite as drastically, but they had a particular idea in their head about what they wanted it to look like, and if that's really important to the.
Who's the top major requests?
Ooh, well, truthfully, it's probably quilt maple. Quilt maple and flame maple. Those are the ones we get a lot. But we've got a lot of other really cool tops. The Buckeye Burl is really popular. It's also really expensive. It's hard to get. It requires a lot of extra work to sort of make sure that all these little sort of irregular spots in the wood are taken care of. So it's an expensive top. So we don't get quite as many requests for it, which that might be part of it. Is because it's a little bit pricey, but there are a lot of other ones that people like a lot. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was just going to show you. This is my favorite, Spalted Maple.
Wow.
Yeah, and that one's really popular. A lot of guys that like really sort of unique, cool figuring kind of go for the spalt stuff because you can get all sorts of things, wild looking stuff like this. This one's cool. Yeah, stuff like that. Just really, really cool stuff. And you can see how Roger preps them to, you know, so we get a good book match on them, you know, sort of the reflections there along this,
So specular.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's some really cool stuff. I think this Spalt is probably my favorite. Or actually, I mentioned this one earlier that I'd show it to you. Should we just go back in order? We've got them all numbered, so I try to make sure they go back in order so I can find them later. This is another cool one. So this is one of the ones I was mentioning that fell under the new CITES because it's a close relative of rosewood. It's Cocobolo.
One more time.
We're gonna go meet Lucas in a second too, so never fear.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's very, very cool stuff.
Too many alder body in order or ash?
Oh, probably ash a little bit more
Ash.
than alder.
This is the typical sound of Sadowsky basses.
People
Alder
generally go.
or
That's
ash.
sort of either one, but the usual pairings are that people pair up alder with rosewood
Okay,
and ash with maple.
maple.
We also do an akume, which is similar to mahogany. It's lighter, but it sounds like
okay.
a mahogany, so we use it. That we like with ebony a lot, but we'll also use it sometimes with rosewood. We probably use ash a little more with alder because when we mix them up, like we're more likely to use ash with rosewood than we are alder with maple. So, you know, probably more ash than
Ash.
alder. We also probably do a few more maple fingerboards than we do rosewood. Actually, speaking of which, fingerboards. Speaking of rosewood fingerboards, so these are the same sort of situation here. These are all of our fingerboards. We do a similar thing with these where we'll grade some as master grade. We don't photograph them for the website, but if you want to pick your exact fingerboard, you know, you can let me know and we'll do a master grade one, and I'll come back here and I'll pick. You know, I'll pick 3 or 4 of them. I'll photograph them for you. You say, "Ooh, I really like 1 and 2. Can I get some more like that?" And we'll go through it like that and pick a fingerboard for you. But we've got Amazon rosewood, which Roger started using when the Brazilian rosewood ended up getting really tightly restricted because Amazon rosewood looks very similar to Brazilian. It's got the nice chocolate brown look. It's got like the nice sort of swirly kind of figure through it, and Brazilian's very similar to it in that way. We also have do some cool things with Madagascar rosewood. Is that Madagascar? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got the big single streaks through it that look really cool. That's one of my favorite. I really like the Madagascar, the way it looks like that.
How many bass do you have? Bass.
I'm a guitar player.
Oh.
How many guitars do you have?
Well, I've got a few, but I've got a Sadowsky telly body that I used that they built for me six months ago. I think I got it. Yeah, about 6 months ago. So that's the only one I use. That's the only one I use. Yeah. So I've never had a ton of guitars, but right now I only have a couple. But I only use one. These are ebonies.
Ebony.
Yeah, here's the ebony.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's gotten harder and harder to find the ebony that's sort of jet black. It has a lot of this sort of streaking and stuff through it, but it looks really nice.
Or use it for fretless bass.
Yeah, really popular for fretless. It's really hard, so having the strings up, you know, it's sort of practically useful, but also it's not bright. It's not super bright, so it doesn't make the fretless sound like thin and tinny. I don't know if that makes sense. But it's also really punchy. So the tricky part is using some of those softer woods in addition to them, like the strings being able to wear down on the wood. They can also start to sound really muddy. But you know, using the ebony keeps it really nice and defined. You can hear all the notes. So ebony's really good for the fretless ones. Whereas maple is like too bright. It's weird. And the rosewood can make it sound muddy, but also is hard to work with. Usually, if we were to use a rosewood or a Murado for a fretless, we would give it a hard coating.
Okay.
Which would sort of kind of bring it even a little bit more to the ebony kind of neck of the woods for the way it sounds. Here's some fingerboards. Bird's eye maple fingerboard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Bellissimo.
Flame maple fingerboard. Okay. Now we're back at the last stop on the tour. So this is Lucas. Lucas sprays the nitro finish on all of our necks. So that's the spray booth there.
Okay.
So since Lucas does that, that makes him sort of the last stop for all the necks. So what he ends up doing is a lot of sort of the last bit of finish sandings for making sure all the frets are perfect and all that good stuff before they go into the spray booth. Because once they go into the spray booth, if we have to do anything to them, a lot of the times it means like respraying it and that sort of thing. So Lucas has to make sure everything's perfect.
It ends up being way more work.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
I gotta take the time, go over it, check it off, and proceed from there.
Yeah, exactly.
I just actually took one back. That's why I was walking back and forth. Not good enough. Do it again.
Yeah. So if he finds something where it's not perfect, he either fixes it himself, or takes it back up to the front and has him spend some extra time with it.
Like this stuff, sanding and prepping for paint, that's my job. So I do that. But like if somebody that was doing fret work before or something along before it got back here, that's not that needs to get a little bit touched up. Then I have the pleasure of sending it back. Instead, I don't have to fix it.
There you go. But since Lucas is kind of the last stop here, some kind of cool things that happen, like during the finishing process, is Lucas applies the Sadowsky decals.
Okay.
And he also applies the serial number decals that go on the back of the headstock. So some people get a little bit confused with the way that the serial numbers work. So they're exactly sequential when they get to Lucas. So Lucas puts, number 70000 on one, then he puts 7001, then it's, he goes down the list like that. But after Lucas, Lisa starts prioritizing which stuff gets built. We might, if a customer build needs to get finished, we'll do that before we do a stock build and things like that. So we'll get spreads in the showroom of maybe 500 serial numbers. Mm-hmm. Like we've got a 7900 in the showroom, and we've got a 7290 something in the showroom. So we'll get spreads of a lot in there because they're.
It also depends on what comes here. Like by the time sometimes something will get prioritized before it even comes here for the serial number.
Right.
So it'll be a factory number for the neck that was maybe a few months ago, but it just got here. But once it's sprayed, everything's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Do you usually natural finish always? Why?
On the necks.
On the necks, yeah.
Well, which one? What'd you say? I didn't.
Do you use natural finish on the neck?
Yeah.
Natural.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, nitro has that vintage feel. That's what the guitar started out with, and a lot of full body instruments were nitro in the 60s, 50s. So it has that real feel of like an old school instrument. Mm-hmm. But it's also, some people say it's hard to work with. So I find it actually easier because it blends into it melts into successive layers of each other and creates a nice strong finish. As polyurethanes layer on, they don't blend in. And polyurethanes are also 2-part chemical mixes where it's a lot more messier and disposing of stuff, and we only have a fine amount of space. I mean, it is a nice spray booth, but it's not like in California where they have big warehouses that they can spray and do stuff, and you have one department cleaning the guns and stuff, and so it's also very easy to maintain nitro stuff. Get acetone, you clean as well and stuff, and once the 2-part chemical polyurethane dries, it's solid plastic. There's it'll take you forever to melt it, clean it out, and whatnot. So, it's that vintage feel, the tradition of the feel of it, and also working with it for so many years that we're so used to working with it that it's just, it's
easy to maintain.
Natural, easy to maintain. Everybody loves the finish. It's classic stuff. We are maybe experimenting a little with polyurethanes for the necks to keep them, but that's just all experimentation for now. maybe we'll come up with something. I don't know.
A lot of people sort of mention to us when they're talking about poly finishes on necks is that they start to feel sticky. It's that sort of plasticky feel he was talking about when the like from the way they're applied, and they start to feel sticky as your hand sweats or as you're playing these, that sort of thing. So we do like a satin sort of finish on the nitro. So it feels really nice and comfortable. It feels like you're playing against sanded wood. But as you play it, the nitro kind of buffs out a little bit to a shine that's nice and smooth. But it doesn't do that same sort of sticky thing that can make it uncomfortable to play. It stays really nice and comfortable.
We also don't kill the neck with like a lot.
Right. Right.
We do a very easy, like maybe 8 coats. It's not that much for nitro. Like to build up a good nitro, like for when they buffed like old fenders and stuff, it used to be like 16, 20 coats. Sealer, color, finish on top. We do a very nice thin, finish, and hopefully you play it enough, it wears in, and it feels like an old pair of shoes. You're just like, oh yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
So this is the spray booth. Lucas does a lot of things in batches, so he'll get a ton of necks ready and then get them, it looks like he's just starting a new batch, so you have some that he's sanded or kind of ready.
We just finished I just put the new batch on the wall yesterday.
Nice.
So it was nice and clean for like nothing, but now it's back to sanding and just gotta fill up the room again.
But you can kind of see here what we'll do. You see one that's got a really sort of a darker tint to it. Sometimes we'll do that's an older neck, but we'll sometimes do a little bit of a darker tint to it. Sometimes we'll do like a really nice kind of natural look to it. You can see that one next to the sort of raw looking one there. But we'll do different sort of shading with the tint a little bit. But we do a little bit of a tint to give it a little bit of color. We call it a vintage tint because you can see the necks behind him there. How the maple looks almost kind of paper white. It's really white. So adding a little bit of a tint to it kind of gives it a little bit more of like a little bit more of like a vintage look to it. It looks a little softer. Yeah, but that's actually the tour, guys. That's the whole tour.
Thanks.
Do you want to go back up and look at the bass showroom?
Yes.
Yes.
Now
Always, right?
It's the time to try some basses.
All right, cool. Let's do it. Let's do it.
You want me to actually do the,
Yeah.
Okay.
We sit back up. So Dan actually used to be our sales manager. Used to be the me for about 3 years, and then decided he wanted to build basses.
Was it 3 years? I don't think it was 3 years.
Yeah, it's 3 years, because I was the shipping manager for 3 years.
It was 2 years.
Almost. It was like 2 and 10 months or something.
Me and Peter like to argue.
Yeah. So Carmine, I used to be the shipping manager, do all the online store stuff, and Dan was the sales manager. And then Dan decided he wanted to come back and start building basses. So then Dan came back here. I moved to Dan's desk, and we brought Carmine.
This is the final step before shipping.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It gets
So it'll
one
go
more
up
check
there.
from Roger.
Right.
Okay.
He does like the final check, and then goes up to Pete, goes up to Carmine.
So when we stopped in and saw Eric over here first, where he's got the neck and the body just kind of sitting separately there, he's just getting started, and this is Dan kind of in the same process, just getting finished up. And these are our Satin Series basses, which we can show you in the showroom. We've got several of them that we can let you check out. Dan does a lot of work with the satins. He does the assembly on most of the satins that we do. If you end up on a little bit of a camera here.
What are you gonna do? I don't know. What are you gonna do with it?
I don't know. We'll find something. We'll keep you out of the shot or something. How about that?
Okay.
So this is the showroom. We try to keep it as full as we can. Instruments that are for sale. Some things are just like demos, you know, so that we make sure we have one, like that single cut there. That one's not for sale. We just want to make sure we have a single cut for people to come and try out. So you see he's checking out some basses right now. That's what the showroom's for. So a couple of cool things. We've got our Metro line basses here.
Okay.
The rest of them are our NYC basses. The Metro line basses we make in a shop that Raj set up in Japan. They've been building instruments for us for 15 years now, maybe a little bit more than that even. But the shop manager over there actually worked, when the shop was in Brooklyn, worked with Roger for a while, and then they went back and set the shop up. So they're unchambered, so they're a little heavier. You're gonna pick them up, you're gonna notice they're a little heavier. Not super heavy. 9 pounds, 9.5 pounds is pretty typical. Whereas the NYC's 8 pounds. This guy right here, 7.17 pounds.
Wow.
It's really light.
Yeah. Very light.
That's super light. But like 7 3/4 pounds or 8 1/4 pounds is pretty normal. So the Metros, they use the same pickups we use, the same preamp we use. Like I said, the guy who is in charge of the shop over there, like worked with Roger. So they're really top-notch basses, but the weight is different. And the other big thing you'll notice is that we don't do all the different options that we do on the NYC.
Okay.
So it's gonna be no figured tops. We either do maple fingerboards or
There's
we do
a standard
Murano.
line.
That's it, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And we've got 7 or 8 models of them now. Each of those models, we've got 15 or 20 finishes. There's a lot of options, but if it's not one of those options, that's it.
Okay.
Then we go into the NYCs. And with the NYCs, we do figured tops. We do cool roasted body woods or roasted neck woods. We do some more variation in the pickup placements and the pickup varieties. We do custom mixed finishes. Like you notice, this is a seafoam green. It's actually a tea seafoam green. You can see through it. Do some cool things like that. We do the chambering, which makes them really, really light. Well, a lot lighter. This one happens to be really, really light.
This is the Satin Series.
Yeah, so there's a couple other things. Within the NYC line, we also started doing about 2 years ago, we started doing what we call the Satin Series, which are instruments that we're able to do here in the New York shop at a price point that's like a little bit more reachable for people that can't spend or aren't ready to spend the kind of money that we're talking about for some of the high-end things like that. So they have satin finishes, they're chambered, and we do, this one right there, yeah, I'm spinning one right now. So satin finishes, they're chambered just like they are in our, and when you saw Dan building the satins back there, they're built right back with all the others. We do a lot fewer options. We do a 21 fret J, and we do a 24 fret modern. That's it.
Okay.
And we do some things like we use the pre-wired preamps instead of hand wiring each one at a time. And we use the Metro hardware, which are still Roger's designs, but Hipshot makes it for us in their overseas factory. The NYCs, we use the Hipshot US stuff. But it's little things like that, and then limiting the options available kind of let us bump the production times up, and they let us keep the prices on them down. The one you noticed there is one we just finished up. Those we're selling just through our dealers. So Your Music in Italy actually has been carrying those for us. We're calling them our deluxe satins, which the same thing all goes into it, but they have figured maple tops, and we open up some cool aesthetic options, mainly like the pick guard, do transparent finishes, that kind of thing. But Your Music's had a couple of them in stock, and that one's just waiting for a home. It's gonna go to one of our dealers here pretty soon. That's kind of it. You're welcome to play whatever you like. We have a show. There's a bass amp in the guitar showroom. So if you want to grab a couple, get basses and plug in there, you're welcome to.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.